Welcome back to Four Titles, One Truth. Real stories, real decisions, and real peace.
So today we're talking about the decision we both ended up making after retirement and why we chose not to jump back into the grind.
Yeah. See, people think retirement means slowing down or losing your purpose. And military people see retirement as, okay, on to the next job. But for me, it meant finally living on my terms, choosing my happiness and putting my family first.
So if you're wondering why I chose to stay at home over a 9 to 5, this episode's for you.
All right, let's get into it. First question, what made you decide not to jump back into the workforce after retirement?
Health. My health. I felt like my health wasn't going in the right direction, and that was probably the biggest thing. But also I wanted to be in control of my time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we have so much our different regulations and just different time constraints, you know, for our jobs and how much we, put into it.
Right.
That I just wanted to be in control of that and not have to worry about any of that. But I mean, most definitely it was my health, man.
Yeah.
It was just it wasn't right.
Yeah. So I get that, but for me it was my family, because during COVID, my wife and I actually got closer together. We started to learn each other all over again.
Okay.
Because I keep saying it's an addiction. When I talk to him, I keep telling him it's an addiction, but it is the truth. You know, once I get involved in something, and once I commit to something, when it comes to job and work, I dive all the way in because I want to be the smartest. I want to be the most capable and the best, right?
It's not a problem till it is.
Yes, and that's the thing. And so over the years, it's a fine line between putting yourself first and then your family first. Some people learn it way quicker than I did. So when I retired, my biggest focus was trying to stay close to my family.
Okay.
And the one thing I knew is when my wife retired, I gave her a year. I said, hey, do whatever you want for a year, and
All right.
and then you can figure it out. So don't worry about anything. And on the flip side, she did that for me. She said the exact same thing to me. She said, take a year, figure out, because I'll tell you, my wife was very concerned about me leaving the military. And it's because of my mentality.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's because of the commitment that she obviously saw, that it wasn't just in my blood. It was literally my DNA.
Yeah, that's paramount. You had this, the support. I mean, and I understand that. Audrey did the same thing for me. I mean, she said, you don't have to work. And I was like, okay. Because I was still having those feelings of like, I need to go back. I need to go do something. I need to do my part and, and all of that stuff. But she was like, nope.
Yeah.
So
that was my big thing, just family.
All right.
Leave it at that.
All right. Did you feel any pressure culturally or financially to keep grinding after you left?
So I'll say culturally, yes, because being a black man,
Being a man, being the head of the house.
Being head of house, and then being Tom Jones' son.
Okay.
Yes, I felt that. I assumed that after I retired, this is all the way up till probably 2 years ago, I always assumed that I was going back into the fight, in a different direction. The only thing I knew leaving the military is I didn't want to work and be connected to the military.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to be one of them, well, when I was... You little whippersnappers, and have my me wall everywhere I went. I didn't want to be that guy.
Okay.
That was a very vivid picture that I saw in my head that I didn't want to participate.
Be. That wasn't your route.
Right. So I felt the pressure, and I link it to culture, because if you're not working, there's a feeling of or sense that people think you're lazy or that you can't.
That perception.
Yeah, and that is my whole life. I've been very dedicated to shattering perceptions of me, black man, blah blah blah. So yes, there was some pressure, and with my wife giving me the year off, it gave me time to understand that I don't need to go back into it in my mind, right? But in my soul,
Right.
I still had some growing to do because I started to feel like I was losing my place in the cultural role of a man, as well as I started to feel a sense of failing my family. And just to put it out there, when you retire and you get your retirement pay and your medical, it's depending on the level of years you spent, you can actually come out and be
Even
close
or
to
ahead.
equal or ahead, yes. And so the reality is, the only reason I bring that up is because the reality of it is I was always going to bring something to the family pie, right? Because I'd served for 30 years and I achieved the E9, the highest you can get. But I still felt that I wasn't contributing because I wasn't physically doing what I've become accustomed to doing for my whole life. So what about you?
I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's the cultural part of it is like you feel like you're the man.
Yeah.
You know, you're the head of the house. You're supposed to, you know, and that's all macho. You know, and it's like, and I know that in my home and in my situation is.
It was never thought.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was never.
It was all in your head.
Yeah, it was never that. You know, and it's like, and feeling like, you know, I'm wasting.
Yeah.
I'm wasting this education that I had. I'm wasting these certificates, and it's like, no, you use that stuff for.
So did
for
you
29 years.
Did you evolve into that, or did you just automatically leave the military feeling that?
No, I think before. I mean, the thing of preparing, because I put my retirement paperwork in probably the year before, or 10 months before, 10, 11 months, 10 to 12 months before. I can't remember. It was February.
Before you retired?
Before I retired. So,
Okay.
so it was about a year or so before year or a little bit more than a year. So just preparing myself, talking to folks that had already retired like yourself and Audra and some other friends, because I was probably the last one in our group to be on active duty still. So just having that information and being able to process.
Water behind you.
Yeah, well, that's good. It can still be there, but I'm done, baby. I'm done. But being able to process it, and just that support from family and friends that like, hey, you know, you did it. You've been doing it, you know, and it made me feel, you know, I was like, you know what, if you know, and knowing that if I needed to go back, that
you could.
Yeah, I could. It's not going to be you know, trying to start something brand new, or because I enjoyed what I was doing when I was
and you're good at it.
When I was in. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, they say you're good at it. No, but I tell people this all the time. Retirement, there's a couple things that happen when you let the world know you're going to retire. Right. The first is everybody's going to congratulate you, and then they're going to say, oh, I wish I was in your shoes, and all that good stuff, right? And you hear that, you receive that. Another thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to make a decision what you're going to do after you retire. Those two things are going to happen, and you can't get caught up in either of those two things.
Right.
You have to accept the congratulations, but don't take on that you're so lucky, or now you're going to have the best life. And then the decision you make has to be what's best for you. And if you have family, with you and your family.
Yeah, it's a mental thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a mental thing that you have to process that piece,
Yeah.
and then hopefully you have the support out there of your family or friends whenever you do get ready to do it.
Right.
So
Yeah. Agreed. All right. So, what's been the biggest reward of choosing a slower, more intentional lifestyle?
again, getting my time back, my health.
Yeah.
Health has been shoot, the best that it's been in 20 years or
Yeah.
so, man. I tell you, I had a my first annual appointment with my civilian provider. All those labs and everything were just, I mean, great. I mean, I was like, wow, looking
Mm.
at them, and it's like all I've been doing is
Yeah.
living life, doing
Yeah.
what I do every day.
And a huge concrete boulder of stress
Yes,
has
is
been lifted.
been dropped off, left in the rear view. So yeah, just I mean, just more, probably more relaxed
Yeah.
than I've
Ever.
been,
Yeah.
and just enjoying, appreciating life,
Yeah.
and all of the things that are around it, and
I agree.
yeah.
And I agree. I agree with you on two things. One, you always talk about you liked what you were doing and enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
it, but it's a different like
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
So the stressors are real when you're um, in a leadership position and serving in the military, because your commitment to it is not based
Yeah.
on a clock.
When you have the reins,
Yeah, yeah, it's a
it's a different
wild
situation.
ride.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
So,
yeah.
like I say, like I, my starting time officially when I was a first sergeant, right, was at Fort Campbell was at 6 o'clock, because at 6 o'clock you had PT formation, right? But
You said 6 o'clock was your
6 o'clock,
starting time.
yes,
Okay,
that was my starting time officially.
that was starting at work.
At
You were
work, 6 o'clock
at
in the
work.
morning. Yeah,
Okay.
that's when the day technically started,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I had to be there before that time, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't just walk up to PT formation when you're the first sergeant. But I also had to make sure that my platoon sergeants were in line with what I wanted to accomplish today, and tracking, closing out what we did yesterday. So that means I had to back that up, and I don't want to take too much of their time. So we'll say 5:30, right? So my platoon sergeant meeting was at 5:30, but I have to be ready for that platoon sergeant meeting. You know what I'm saying? So I can't arrive at that meeting at 5:30 because I need to make sure that everything's locked in and away. So I usually leave my house at 5,
Mm.
right? But I got to wake up because I can't leave at 5 if I'm still sleeping. So I have to wake up, make sure I have everything I need for the day. So that means my day started between 4:15 and 4:30 every morning.
So yeah, it's kind. I mean, the time, you
Absolutely.
just heard the time,
Yeah.
and that was, he wasn't even at work yet. He hadn't even started his work, sitting at his desk. This was all of the
Right.
stuff
Yeah.
prior to it. Yeah, because it doesn't stop, because
Nah.
you're getting phone calls, you're getting text messages,
Yeah.
and uh, and if you enjoy what you're doing and you love what you're doing, then you make yourself
Yeah.
available
All the
to
time.
folks.
Yep.
So like the phone rings, you're answering your
Yeah.
phone. The text goes off, you're doing that, and then whatever comes from
And
that, you're
dealing
either
with it. Yep.
opening up a computer and trying to
Yep.
figure out something, or you making phone calls.
Mm.
So it's a lot that you don't get to turn it
Nope.
off.
And
Like,
that
yeah,
goes to the two things we talked about. Time,
yep,
you get all that back because now you're accountable for yourself and your family only, but also you your family. You right now you get that time back so that you can be around your family and
hmm
work towards rebuilding or continuing to build those relationships, and give you a different kind of peace. And so the biggest reward is that peace and that happiness that Lance was talking about. Is I'm in a different kind of happy now.
Right.
Right. I love that grind. I love the problem solving. I love the mentoring, and I love the the ability to shape people's lives forever. That was something I cherished, right? But the weight of that is huge. There's nothing worse than driving back. We were in Nashville. We were hanging out with a buddy and his wife, and we're coming back from Nashville back to Clarksville, and it's like 2:15 in the morning, and the phone rings. It's one of my platoon sergeants, and so I'm like, "What in the world?" So I got it on speakerphone, and he was like, "Hey," he said, "Hey, Top, so and so just killed himself." That's 2:00 in the morning. That's on a Friday night or Saturday night. So that next day, gone from my family, from my friends, and all that stuff.
You're up at the unit.
Absolutely. Yep. So that stuff, it happens all the time, but the reward is just, and call it a reward, but it can be the opposite as well, because what are you going to do to fill in that gap of time that you've gotten back, or that stress? Because people become reliable on stress. They rely on stress. So,
well, just it's having. You call it a plan. You call it whatever you want. I mean, but I know because
that's the smart way.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I try to, like, by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I try to, like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go watch me a movie, go watch TV, look at do whatever else. If it's not after walking the dog or working on the project or something, so I try to limit myself so that I'm not doing something all day, because it's hard just to
fill that time.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm the opposite. So what I've forced myself to do is to be able to go back to sleep, which is something that I could never do. So when I wake up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning, I'm now able to go back to sleep. And I'm so proud of that, because I'm telling you, I've never in my life, even as a kid, once I wake up, my energy just starts going and I just start sprinting. Yeah, but now I can go back to sleep.
That's good.
And wake up at 8:30, 9, and be all right. So
yeah, I got 2 dogs that laser stare me down. And
I got one. She ain't trying to do nothing.
One. Lucky.
No, we both bought them. You chose those, though.
That's true.
You chose
That's
those
true.
monsters.
That's true.
Those
brought it on myself.
Yeah.
Brought it on
myself.
myself.
Monsters like ugly. I mean, they're strong and they got energy. Yeah. Beautiful dogs.
Beautiful, loving dogs.
Absolutely.
Okay. So how did your definition of success change after, or has it changed after leaving the Army?
Yeah, it definitely changed.
Okay.
My pursuit of happiness has changed, which means my definition of success has changed. So when I was in the military, my pursuit of happiness was getting those leadership positions, getting those hard jobs, and then getting promoted. That was my pursuit of happiness. There was a bunch of arrogance and selfishness that came with that.
So it's like hitting the goals or hitting the results of the goal. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
all right.
That was my definition of success. That's how my mindset is. I took stuff and was like, hey, they're working hard. They're doing great. I gotta do more. I gotta do more. And that was my thing. And it was trying to give my subordinates every tool that I didn't have, and then the ones they needed, but also making sure that I found other tools and the stuff that I was telling my soldiers that they needed to do. I had to epitomize that. You know what I'm saying? If I get on a soldier for being late to formation, I could never be late to formation. Ooh. And that's how my mind works. If I'm going to tell you don't drink and drive, I can't drink and drive. right? So I I can't tell you the nights that I was the designated driver, not because I was selected, but because everybody knew that I wasn't going to
Gonna
drink,
drink
because I was not ever going to put myself in that
in a
situation.
situation.
So, but that just goes more to the psychosis that I
Okay.
had.
Okay.
But my pursuit of happiness through personal evaluation, right, and um, mentality understanding,
Mm-hmm.
right, understanding who I was as a person, and it was not an easy understanding, but my uh, new pursuit of happiness was one of peace, one of happiness, and one of family.
Okay.
And so
That's good.
that means my drive, that means my psychosis, or whatever you want to call it. That means my whole mentality on what I think success is had to
Well,
change.
you redirected it.
Yeah,
Is I mean that's what I feel like. You redirected.
I did, but it took a while. And
Okay.
that's the point I'm trying to get
Okay.
across is I had to redirect that, but I also had to redirect it in a way that wasn't volatile to the new pursuit of happiness that I'm
To blow
searching
up
for.
what you were going,
Absolutely.
what you
Absolutely.
doing at the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right. Mine is I mean I don't feel like it had. I mean my definition of success,
mhm,
the goals as far as how what I'm, I guess how it would have to be more of a maybe a mental thing, maybe
mhm.
of a
Well, like you said to me, the goals have changed, but
yeah. I mean, but the like success is success.
right.
You're winning at whatever you're doing. If I plant this rose bush and
That is a
uh
mature
it
way of dealing with it. That's all I'm
I plant that
saying.
rose bush and it's living and it
Yeah.
hadn't died yet, then
Yeah.
that's
But
success.
only have one
But
bud.
work hey, it's still
That's
there.
what I'm saying.
It's still
That's a
there.
very
It's still
mature
but
way
but
of.
it's you are absolutely correct as
Yeah.
far as when you are in the grind and you are working and you're in the military, it's a go go go. Let me be the best. I
Yeah.
want my area to be the best. I want
Yeah.
my people to
Shine.
go
Yep.
off and they go someplace. Yep,
Yeah.
that was my nurse. That was one of my nurses. Yep,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know that they're bad. You know that they
Absolutely.
know what they're
Yeah.
doing. So yes, that has changed because I'm not in that environment
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And um luckily again I had time to prepare for get
Yeah.
my mind right for that. Uh and I'm good, and I've been good with it. I
Mm.
just as far as not being the man, not
Right.
being
Yeah.
Colonel Taylor, and I mean, because it was like it was great when I was in it. Not saying that that's what I needed, but uh, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
It's like again, it's like I had such a good career,
Yeah.
and just meeting the people and knowing the people and just that I'm good right
Hmm.
now. I can say honestly right now I'm good right now.
In a good place.
Yeah, I'm in a good place right
Yeah.
now where I'm not longing or I feel like the need to have to get back because like you said, it's people uh, that are that are like they had to jump right back into something that's military because they
Right. Yeah.
can't lead a uniform.
Yeah.
So
That's facts.
yeah.
Um, and also just point out, there's two different comfort zones on how our perception and maturity level at right. And another thing I need to point out that a lot of people don't realize that maturity level is one thing, but there's also maturity level in different aspects, right? So you could be a mature person when it comes to your education, but you can also be an immature person when it comes to how you are as a person,
Mm-hmm.
right? So maturity level it's thrown out, but it's also not defined of each aspect of your life.
Right.
And so these are two different maturity levels on the subject of retirement, because I was also very comfortable with that decision, because I understood that, look, the more the longer I stay, I'm still an E9, right? I had to accept the fact that I was never going to be a 3-star level CSM. I had to accept that. And I was able to accept that because I understood the reality of it. But at the same time, that meant I fell short of something that I thought I should have achieved. So I had to deal with that.
But was it other politicking and stuff that goes along with getting some of those
There is
positions?
But,
I mean,
but at the same time, you still, like you said, if you still feel like you're the best qualified and most qualified and you don't get selected,
you shouldn't have to do that.
The first thing, politics, is not what pops in your mind. Yeah. It's like, where did I fall short?
I hear you.
But anyway,
I hear you.
You just see there's two different maturity levels with the decision to retire, because we both felt good about it before we did it, when we did it, and then after we did it. I had more of a adjustment period because the value that I felt I was for the Army and for my situation, that left a huge gap in my life, especially when I wake up when I want to versus I have to wake up to be somewhere, and now nobody's calling me to help. I'm not getting a million calls because, like you, I get people call and ask questions or whatever, but I don't get the same type of, what do they say, drinking from a fire hydrant. Right. I don't get the same type of thing.
You were afforded the time to reflect, that self-reflection.
Yes.
You were able to,
luckily,
you finally had that time where you could actually sit down and
evaluate myself.
You could do, for yourself and not everybody else, because you're worried about that cat, that unit over there, these people. You mean you're going, and you're not looking at really, even when you retire, you don't, because people talk about being retired on active duty. Yeah. I wasn't retired on active duty. I worked until I was done. And it if you do that, then you don't have time to. You're not worried about that piece, because in your mind you're thinking, well, I got time when I retire, and then when you retire, you're like, so
it's here.
So I mean, it's you had that time to finally, that's great, that's good.
And I'd also say this, I did have that time because we were financially stable. Yep. And I had a wife who was understanding, supportive, because she retired in 2019, so she understood what just going through that retirement was. And I also will say that she was very fearful of when it was time for me to leave the military, because she knew that I have an addictive personality, and she knew that because it wasn't just the uniform I wore, it was in my DNA. And when I say that, a lot of people say, well, no, the Army, the regulations, it wasn't just how I lived my Army life. It was how I lived my life. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, so she was, well, I'll just say she was extra caring because of the time.
That's good.
And luckily, on top of the luck that I found somebody that was willing to help me do that, but luckily I was able to get myself out of the hole that I was falling into of trying to fill that space. And it wasn't just me all of a sudden maturing and being conscious. It was still me talking to counselors through the VA. It was still me having conversations with friends, especially friends that had retired. So important. It was a bunch of stuff that I was luckily able to get out of the funk that I was falling in before it really became a tragedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, because, a lot of people, there are people out there that when they fall into that funk, they don't make it back out of it. And the worst case scenario, they end their life. The other case is, after serving honorably for all these years, now they're either living on the street or they're struggling to find peace afterwards or whatever. So it's a real thing, because I witnessed it. I experienced it, and I'm lucky that I got out of it. And then once I told my story to a bunch of people, to some people, you start to find out that you're not alone.
No,
Yeah.
you say it's,
And that's
you're not the only one that.
yeah, but it feels like you are.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who assume not working means that you're no longer thriving in life?
Nah, I think I don't believe that. I mean, it's a because if you wanted to go back to work, you would go back to. I think if I wanted to go back to work, I would go back to work if I felt like that was what I needed to do in order to be happy. I mean, it's like I think if you are happy, your family is happy, you're doing what you want, you're thriving.
That's a success.
You're thriving. Yeah, I mean, it's again, you need to make sure that you are financially stable, mentally stable. I mean, if you're all of those things, then it's like, what am I going back? Unless you're going back to work because you want to buy a boat or a house or something that's like a big ticket item or something. But as far as like just feeling like you're thriving just because you're working
or not thriving.
Yeah, or not thriving because you're not, or because you're not getting the accolades for what. I mean, there's other things you can do to do that. I mean, I'm gonna try to pick up some pickleball and go professional, maybe.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. I'll get out there on that pickleball court and I'll start it, and next thing you know, I'm diving all over the place. And then my daggone MCL tour, ACL tour. So that's my biggest thing.
Your body, man. My body won't let me. I can't move that.
So
that quick anymore.
For me, thriving is it's a self-defined process. So if somebody says that you're not thriving because you're not working, then they obviously don't know you or your situation, right? And all I can ask is don't take on their perception of you as weight. And then, like Lance said, you determine what thriving is. So what do you want to do? And it'll take time. You can leave the military after retiring or just getting out and then start another job and not feel like you're thriving. And so
be an unhappy person.
Absolutely. And what that means is just really define what thriving is to you. If thriving to you is staying in the rat race and pushing yourself to your limits, then do that. But I would say, what's the consequence of that?
Right.
Especially if you have a family. Yep. Especially, most of the people that retire have, at a minimum, kids, right? And what if you're married and you stay in that rat race and you never get a chance to bond with your kid? And I'll tell you right now, my relationship with my son is a failure on my part, or is not where it should be, because it's a failure on my part because I was so military focused. The same reason with my relationships in the military. And I'm talking about before my wife, and even during that, I was so focused on the job and so focused on my own personal goals in the job that I would put myself in front of everything.
Intense, man.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it took me a long time to accept that I did that, and then accept that I was the problem, instead of sitting there trying to throw jabs at other people saying, we ain't together because you ain't together because I was not trying to keep us together. You know what I'm saying? So all that to let you know that it's a decision that you have to make.
Yep.
And then it's also we talked about looking in the mirror. You have to look in the mirror and you have to start thinking about what's going to make you happy, because you've given your whole life to this military. Now it's time for you to see, is it worth it to you to give to yourself and give to your family? Because for me, that is where I found happiness. That is where I found success. newfound
do something that's going to make you happy.
Absolutely.
Do whatever project, whatever. Yeah. Do something that's going to make you happy.
Yeah, because you earned it and you deserve it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My next thing is, thank you all so much for joining us again on our podcast. Just remember, I didn't retire to stop working. I retired to work on myself, on my family, and I stayed retired to work on myself and my family.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with slowing down and enjoying that, the journey that you're on, because you earned every bit of that. You earned every bit of that.
And if nobody tells you, let us tell you, if you've retired from the military, you've earned the right to find happiness and be happy.
Yep.
No matter what it is, it's your choice. You deserved it because you've put in that time. And now it's time for you to start thinking about yourself. Right? So thank you for locking in with us. This is 4 Titles, 1 Truth. Catch us next time.
Hey, let's keep the conversation going.
All right. Now.
All right.